All right. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing super well. I'm Julia. I am one of the physical therapists that works at Rogue Physical Therapy and Wellness. I want to kind of go over some, what's it called? Housekeeping before we get started. If you guys wouldn't mind, please keeping just all your microphones muted until the end. If you have any questions while I'm going through this presentation, feel free to jot it down on pen and paper or type it in the chat because I will answer it at the end, or just remember them so that when we pause for questions at the end, I can go ahead and discuss all of them and we can do it together as a group. All right, so today for our September webinar, we're going to be learning about high intensity exercise and its relation to Parkinson's. Okay. So what is high intensity exercise? That's what we're going to start off with. Oh, just kidding. We're going to start off introducing myself. See, keeping you all on your toes. I'm Julia. I'm a PT, like I said. I've been working at Rogue since January 2021 or 2022. So a year and a half now. I graduated from USC physical therapy program. I got my doctorate. So I have my doctorate in physical therapy. I teach boxing classes, circuit classes, power moves. I teach a brain body training. I teach a lot of different classes. So at Rogue, we have both the in-person and online membership. In-person classes, I teach all of those. Online, I typically teach cardio, I teach power moves, and I teach boxing and brain body. That's a little bit about me. So our objectives for the day of what we're doing, kind of what's going on, what's the plan. My goal for you is just to kind of get a brief understanding of what high intensity is and what that means, especially in comparison to aerobic exercise. And then we're going to review some of the research that supports high intensity exercise for people with Parkinson's. We're going to discuss the different types of high intensity exercise because sometimes people might think it's just cardio, and I'm here to tell you it's not. And then lastly, we are understanding where you can find and implement high intensity exercise. So where can you find it around you or online? And then how are you going to implement or track your high intensity exercise? So those are going to be my objectives for today. Hopefully you pull one or two or maybe all four out. So what is high intensity exercise? So I'm going to kind of go back to the basics here. We're going to speak about aerobic exercise. So aerobic exercise, everyone really knows about. They think of like cardio. So walking, jogging, swimming, running, all of those are considered aerobic exercise. When we talk about high intensity exercise, we're talking on the upper end of aerobic exercise. A lot of the research that's done for people with Parkinson's, they always call it typically aerobic exercise, but high intensity aerobic exercise. So I want to just go to this next slide that's blank so we can kind of talk about the difference. So I'm going to draw on here. So just give me a second. So aerobic exercise is basically any exercise that you're using the air to breathe. So aerobic exercise can range from low intensity all the way to high intensity. Okay. And then you have your moderate in the middle. So some examples of low intensity aerobic exercise would be like walking, or maybe biking could be a good one. Moderate intensity could be jogging, it could be swimming. And then high intensity exercise could be like sprinting or running. And yeah, so there's kind of a range. All right. So there's low intensity aerobic exercise, moderate intensity aerobic exercise, and then high intensity aerobic exercise. So today we're focusing on just, this area of our aerobic intensity. So it's a spectrum is kind of what I want us to understand. All right. So I'm going to stop my annotations. We're going to go backwards. So now we kind of had an understanding between aerobic versus high intensity. High intensity exercise or high intensity aerobic exercise includes some aerobic, yes. So you're using the air to breathe. However, you're pushing your heart rate to those higher levels. So the way we kind of discuss high intensity is, yes, you're breathing air, but you also might get into a point where you're really pushing that high intensity, that you get into an anaerobic zone where you're using more of the stored energy in your muscles. And then at Rogue, what we do, so you can see the pictures on the right, we track everyone's heart rate with those heart rate monitors, which are in the little corner on the top right. We use Scotia heart rate monitors. We put them on your either your forearm or your upper arm, and we put in your age and your resting heart rate, and it calculates your heart rate ranges. So when we talk about doing high intensity exercise, we talk about getting into 70 to 90 or 60 to 80% of your max heart rate range. So your max heart rate range is basically the maximum number of beats your heart can physically pump in 1 minute. So some people know, like, usually they take like 220 minus their age, and then you find your max heart rate that way. That's a really good rule to start with. However, it's not as specific. So we really take into account your age as well as your resting heart rate. So kind of your fitness levels currently. So many of the research studies that we will talk about later speak about high intensity exercise as a range between 60 to 80% of your max heart rate. Why does all this matter? Because the research says if you work out in those exercise ranges for at least 3 times for 30 minutes per week, it will reduce your progression of Parkinson's. It will help reduce your symptoms, and it's shown just great benefits overall, better use of your medication, even dopamine production yourself increases dopamine in your brain. So there's so many positive effects that you can get with high intensity aerobic exercise. That's the reason why we're talking about this today. So if there's one thing you take home, do high intensity exercise. Obviously, make sure you're clear and healthy, and make sure you're doing it as much as you can to reap the benefits. So let's look at that top right picture. So as you can see, this is one of the classes that I have that I teach in person. We have this brought up on the screen. But everyone is in different colors. So we have this as a way to monitor, which is ongoing monitoring during our exercise class, as a way to tell each person what heart rate range they are in. So the research says 60 to 80% is going to be the goal. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 people that are in the blue. So we call that 60 to 69% range. So that's a great range. That's high intensity. That's what we consider. We have 2 people in green, which is also 70 to 80%. So that's great. That's also, and then we have people in 81%. So if you're kind of going beyond that 80%, we check in, make sure you're feeling okay, but you're really pushing that intensity to that next level. And then all my friends that are in gray, we are there to kind of just remind them and help coach them that we want to get them in a little bit of a higher range of your heart rate. So working a little bit harder in order to get the benefits of high intensity aerobic exercise that has been explained in the research. And then in the bottom right, you will see the kind of aftermath of our workout. So you get this kind of agenda of what your heart rate did during the workout. So if we look in that kind of top left box, make sure everyone's muted. Make sure everyone's muted. Okay. We're going to look at the top left box here. The person that was behind this box, their average heart rate was 142. Their max heart rate that they achieved during the workout, so not their max heart rate in total, during the workout was 166. So all these different colors, blue, green, orange, red, all represent high intensity ranges. So if you're coming in person, you get all this data. But this is online, so not all the time we can have people come in. So we're going to kind of teach you how to do it yourself at home. All right. So that was a lot of information about what high intensity is, what is it compared to aerobic exercise, what is your max heart rate, what are the ranges. So I know there's a lot of information, and I'm going to try to break it down as best I can. And if we ever have any questions at the end, I'm happy to go back to the slides and re-explain it as well. So what are the types of high intensity exercise? So you know how we talked about in that spectrum of aerobic exercise, we go to that end of the spectrum where it's high intensity. High intensity, I say, breaks up into two different types. When people think high aerobic exercise, people typically think cardio machines, running, biking, treadmill, elliptical, all of those machines. Yes, that is a high intensity type of workout, aerobic workout. But there's also different classes that you can do where you get your heart rate up to that 60% or higher heart rate max range that qualifies as high intensity training. So boxing, high intensity interval training, circuit class, all of those classes will also contribute or be a type of high intensity exercise. So all of these pictures on the sides, this is me boxing in a boxing class. All these pictures are what we typically do during one of these exercise classes. The bottom left, we have our friend Anne here carrying different weights, working on a tall posture, getting her heart rate up. And the top right here, we have our friend who is working on the elliptical, and Alberto is coaching him to get him to push a little bit harder. And then in the bottom right, we have our other friend who is working in a boxing class, working not only on really good form and tall posture and extending through that full range, but also trying to increase that intensity to get that heart rate up. So let's go to the research. Why or how do we know that high intensity is good? Good for people with Parkinson's, good for people in general. So 1 or 2 studies have shown that they basically state that high intensity regular, so 3 times a week at least for 30 minutes, which is the Parkinson's Foundation guidelines that were released, regular physical activity has been shown to have robust association or of slowing down Parkinson's disease symptom progression. So in research, we can never prove 100% causality of like this. If you do this, then it's that. Unfortunately, research is not like that, and we can't guarantee it 100%. But it showed to have a strong association, so a very close relationship, that if you have high intensity, regular physical activity, that will help slow your Parkinson's symptoms down. So I have the research here. I know anecdotally of seeing the members here in this place, people come in without really a high intensity workout program. And after doing it for 3 or 4 months, we do assessments to track their progress. And I've seen improvements on all their scores, reaching age norms to people that don't have Parkinson's. So it just attributes to what the research says, that high intensity regular exercise can help slow Parkinson's symptoms down. If we want to get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty of like what's going on in the brain, this second bullet point kind of talks about that. So high intensity aerobic exercise enhances not only your dopamine release, but also the plasticity. So the wiring in your brain, it creates stronger connections. So you're a little bit sharper. And there's been a lot of other animal studies that have explored different aerobic type exercise and how it has actually, the brain releases neurotrophic hormones when you do this high intensity exercise, which actually helps protect against neurotoxins. So neurotoxins, there's a bunch of reasons why they can occur in your brain, but ultimately they can lead to Parkinson's. They can lead to other neurodegenerative disorders. But ultimately, high intensity exercise can kind of increase the distribution of neurotrophic hormones. And that was found in animal models. And then there are many studies that have people performing 30 to 45 minutes of aerobic activity, starting at 50% of their heart rate max or above. We say 60% because most of the research that talks about high intensity exercise usually characterize 60 or 70% of your heart rate max or higher. However, there are some studies that have only required 50% of your heart rate max. So if you're someone that oftentimes, if you're on a statin or a beta blocker or something that kind of blunts your heart rate response, sometimes this 50% heart rate max is the best you're going to be able to do. Or if you're starting out at aerobic training or intensity program of exercise, 50% of your heart rate max is a great way to start. Exercise in general is going to be beneficial. So I'd rather you be doing something, some aerobic activity, than doing nothing. And to that point, I want to look at that to the right. I have this little quote from another research article that I pulled, which says not their baseline level, but the maintenance of their physical activity level is the key factor associated with better clinical course of PD over a long period of time. So if you're someone that hasn't really been super consistent in your exercise program, or you haven't really started yet, this is the quote for you I want you to take. So it's not your baseline. It's not your starting level. You can be out of shape. You might have had an injury and you have to get back into it. But it's not your baseline level of fitness. It's actually, once you get started, it's the maintenance of it.
Somebody wants to buy our house again. Huh? Got a call from somebody wanting to buy.
Oh, let's stay muted. Okay. It's not the baseline level of someone's fitness. It does matter, but it's basically the maintenance of their physical activity, of ongoing, continuous, high intensity activity. That is what's going to affect your clinical course of PD symptoms over time. Okay. So at Rogue, we encourage everyone to be between 60 to 80% of their heart rate max to follow the research as much as we can. So yes, it helps with symptoms of PD, right? There are so many other motor and non-motor symptoms that high intensity aerobic exercise can help with. So decreasing cardiovascular complications, arresting of osteoporosis. So osteoporosis has a higher frequency in people with Parkinson. So high intensity exercise helps rebuild bone, or at least slow down the progression of osteoporosis. Improved cognitive function. So just like I was talking about how the connections are getting stronger, aerobic high intensity exercise actually improves your brain. Prevention of mental health illnesses. Prevention is a big word, but I would just say maybe decrease risk. Improve sleep. So I know sometimes people are really tired and they tell me that, I'm too tired to exercise. And I will tell them, let's try our best, try to get some exercise. I know you're going to be tired after, but it actually will improve your sleep quality at night. It decreases constipation because you're getting everything moving, decreases fatigue, improves your functional motor performance. So decreasing your Parkinson symptoms helps your motor symptoms, your motor performance. Improve drug efficacy. So that's something that I find very powerful, is that exercise actually can really help with the metabolism of your carbidopa, levodopa, or whatever drug you take. It helps uptake the drug better as well. Optimization of your own dopaminergic system. So I know we've already lost a lot of dopamine when you get diagnosed with Parkinson's. Some say up to 80%. With high intensity exercise, you're kind of kickstarting that system to try to at least have some dopamine from your own body getting out into your brain. And then lastly is improved mood. So improved mood, happier, feel more confident. All of those things are great improvements that you can get. So where can you find high intensity exercise? So obviously I'm a little biased, Rogue PT and Wellness. However, you have local gym classes. If you're in a nearby city, local gym classes, I would go and see if they have any high intensity aerobic exercises. So maybe step aerobics or cycling or some strength training, any of those. And then you can look up YouTube classes. Like I know there's quite a few high intensity exercises on YouTube that you can do, and it's for free. At Rogue, we have in-person classes. So if you're close to Fountain Valley in California, I would love for you to come in and do some classes with us because we track your heart rate. We're all about data. And then if you're online classes, we have live online classes every day that we do various high intensity exercises. When you do local gym classes, YouTube classes, even online classes, how do you know that you are going to be getting your heart rate up, right? That's usually the question I get is like, how do I know that I get it up? Well, kind of two answers here. First answer is you get a heart rate monitor, whether it's an Apple Watch or it's Oura Ring, Fitbit. Like take note that these are not the most accurate. However, it will do its best job. Or you can get the Scosh monitors or actually heart rate monitors where you can connect to and have it on your phone for an app and plug in your own numbers. So in order to find your max heart rate and then your heart rate ranges is you're going to enter your age. And I have this website that I can give you all if you want to calculate it too. It's called the Carvinian method. So you're going to enter your age. So I just put here 26. You enter your resting heart rate, which usually you can track on just a Apple Watch or something, or track your pulse for 60 seconds and count it while you're sitting down and resting. Put those two in, you're going to calculate it. When you calculate, it's going to populate all different percentages of your max heart rate. So 100% of your max heart rate will just be your max heart rate. 90% will be a little bit lower, and they're going to keep going down every 10%. Your goal is to look at the 60 and 80% ranges. That's where I want your heart rate to be in while you're working out. So for me, I'm 26 years old. My resting heart rate is 75. My 60 to 80% range is below. 60% is 116 beats per minute. 80% is 175 beats per minute. So when I go to work out, I try to keep my 60 to 80% range or keep my heart rate in that range. So I constantly am looking at my heart rate monitor. I'm saying how high is it getting? A lot of heart rate monitors won't tell you the ranges. So like 60%, 70%, they won't tell you that. They'll just tell you the beats per minute, which is why I want you to have both. So you'll calculate your own using the Carvinian method. It's a calculator online. And then you will input that information in your heart rate monitor app if you decide to get a heart rate monitor, or just have it nearby on a post-it note when you're working out that you can refer back to. And step 3 is actually doing the exercise and checking your heart rate as much as possible. All right. So this is like, if you want data, this is the way to go. If you don't have an Apple Watch or a heart rate monitor and you don't want to do that, it's too much, you just want to focus on working out, I have this for you. Okay. So it's a little cut off, but that's okay. The RPE scale, the rate of perceived exertion chart. You can download this on our Rogue website, which I can also give you the link to for free. It's a printout. But the RPE scale is a self questionnaire that you're going to scale yourself. So it's all about your perceived effort of how hard you're working. So when I say I want someone in a high intensity range, I'm talking about like 6 to 8 out of 10. All right. So 3 and below is like you're basically in a comfort zone. You're chilling on the couch. You're not really working hard. When you start getting up to like 4 and 5, you're getting into that progressive pace. Maybe you can have a conversation, but you still need to be able to kind of like, you feel yourself starting to breathe a little heavier. Then when you get into the 6, 7, 8 range, you're getting into the dopamine zone, or the 7, 8, 9 range, you're getting in the dopamine zone. And this is where you can not only speak short sentences. So if you're like, I don't know what 7 out of 10 means, look out the effort description and compare of how you're feeling to the description. So for 7, are you speaking in short sentences, but it becomes uncomfortable quickly? Or is it harder to say more than 2 or 3 words? This is the best range for you if you don't want to track your heart rate, but you want some perceived effort. So you have to be very honest with yourself of like, how hard am I working? Am I hard enough that I can't say more than 2 or 3 words? Then I'm probably an 8 out of 10. Or am I walking with my friend and I'm having a whole conversation? Then you're probably at a 4 or a 5 out of 10. If you want to get into that dopamine producing zone, that's what we call it, or that high intensity zone, we have to push ourselves a lot harder. And oftentimes when we are not used to that, it's really hard to start out. And so I would encourage you starting off with just 5 or 10 minutes of it. So make sure you warm up and cool down, of course, but then try to do some 5 or 10 minutes and slowly build up your workout. All right. So Rogue is such a unique place because everyone who teaches the classes are all physical therapists. And our mission is to help support people with Parkinson's with ongoing high quality evidence-based exercise. So online, we have people even within Orange County that don't want to come in person will tune in, but we actually have people across the nation and across the world. So it's crazy to see all these different people. If you can't attend the live classes, that's totally fine because we record every single class and we put them up on the Rogue and Motion website. So we have a ton of access to classes. We have live classes. We have recorded classes. We also offer speech classes. So if you're someone, this isn't high intensity, but if you're someone that really wants to work on your speech, we offer live speech classes and also a whole speech library to work on it. And then what else do you get when you sign up for this membership? We do a weekly cooking class because it's shown that more Mediterranean diet and mind diet helps with Parkinson's symptoms. We have a monthly brain training class. We have a PD school watch party, so we learn about different research. We have a monthly membership meeting where we check in, and Claire, our owner, comes on and checks in with everyone, see how's everyone doing. And then we have an educational meeting every month where we kind of discuss something new. And then we just have a bunch of people that you get to connect to if you come to the live classes because everyone's online, which is really fun and nice. And I'll be able to talk to everyone and you'll be able to talk to other people that are online that also have Parkinson's. So for a high intensity exercise, this is our live class schedule online. Okay. For high intensity exercise, the ones that are in box in, I guess is like a yellow orange color, those are all what I would consider high intensity exercises. So this is where you can really push your heart rate up into those higher zones. So we have cardio 3 times a week, 40-minute, 30-minute, 35-minute, and a 30-minute class. And then we have every single day, we have either a HIIT or a boxing class, where we do basically an hour. So we do about 35 minutes of the actual high intensity. And then we have a warm up before and a cool down after. So high intensity interval training, you're doing a bunch of different exercises, switching between high intensity and then more of a skilled. And then you have our boxing, where you're doing boxing different combos, which is more of the skilled, swapped in with high intensity, so you're switching between those. So this is our live class schedule, but if you can't attend these, we always have the video library with all of these recorded classes because we record every single one. I'm Julia, so I teach basically on Thursdays and then on Friday mornings. Power moves we offer every single day because I think that's something that's super important to do. Just for amplitude training, which I talked about 2 months ago. So if you want to look back at that, you can, it's on YouTube. But amplitude training is, I consider it more of like a balance and stretching and just overall general mobility training. But for some people, power moves can actually turn into a high intensity training based on if some people are a little bit more out of shape. Sometimes power moves will be a little bit more intense and they'll actually get their heart rate up. I've seen it. But what I would suggest, if you want to try a high intensity class or start getting into that program, cardios, hits, or boxing are going to be the goal for you, whether you do it with Rogue or whether you try to go out into the community and try to find something. So this is kind of what the website looks like if you do. I have a code for you guys to get a free month so you can try it. But when you click onto the website, you'll log in and we have all different power moves. We have power moves with strength, our power moves with strength, regular power moves, beginner power moves. Then we have our high intensity interval training, boxing, cardio, strength. All right. So we have a various range. So you have a lot of different access of the different videos. We have over 3,000 videos now in the library. So at the end of today's webinar, I'm basically going to open up this code for us where you have to click the monthly option, and then you're going to put in not exercise 50, put in free month in all caps. And instead of getting like half a month off, you're going to get a whole month off. And so you basically get a whole month of free exercise classes. You can try it out. And if you don't like it, you cancel by the end of the month and you will not get charged. Okay. So our monthly prices got updated and I wanted to let you know. So our monthly prices are $74.99 a month. And then the annual is $749.99 for the annual. So you'll basically be saving free 2 months if you do the annual. But if you're still not sure yet, you don't want to commit to that, try the free month. I gave you a promo code so you guys can do that. Type that into the promo code part when you're signing up. And so instead of a 7-day free trial, you get a whole month. These are some of my references. If anyone wanted to look them up, I am happy to share my slides with you all too. You just let me know. And I think that's it. So if anyone has any questions, I would love to take some questions. Let me stop my sharing. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat or feel free to unmute and talk to me, whatever you think. But thank you all for listening, and I'm ready to take some questions.
Julia, I have a question for you.
Yeah, Tom.
You didn't
what's
mention
up?
any studies regarding medium intensity exercise where you're going to exercise for longer periods of time. How does that compare to the high intensity short period of time?
That's a great question. So when we talk about research, a lot of times they clarify and say moderate to high intensity, which is considered 60% of your max heart rate or above. So moderate intensity for doing it longer durations is also beneficial. But the research shows that if you want to kind of slow your Parkinson's symptoms down, high intensity is the way to go. I'm not saying don't do moderate intensity and long durations. There's a lot of other benefits from that, especially when you go walking for long miles. You build your endurance, you still build your strength, you work on your balance. So there's, I guess, different benefits from both of them. We just talked about high intensity.
I wonder why high intensity works so well. It sounds like shock therapy.
I know. Sometimes people tell me after my classes, they're like, man, that was a lot. But what I always tell people when they start doing high intensity exercise is to kind of start easy. So for our interval trainings, we do 60 seconds on, 15 seconds off. And what I tell people when they first start, try 30 and then take a break. And you're slowly going to build up your endurance for it and you're going to tolerate it better. Yeah.
And Doris, what's the difference between I have an oximeter between the pulse rate and the heart rate.
Yeah, so your pulse oximeter, you are probably going to get your heart rate, and then you probably get like a percentage or something like that. That's your oxygen rate. So your
heart rate, is the heart rate the same as the pulse?
Yeah, so your heart rate is kind of like your pulse of like how many beats per minute is your heart pumping, which you take it on your finger with the pulse oximeter. Then you're going to get another number, which ideally is like 95 or above, that shows you how well you're getting oxygen into your cells in your body.
And what does boxing do for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's a bunch of different boxing classes out there. Like Rock City Boxing is huge. So if you have one local in your area, that's always a great option to try out as well. But what I know about the boxing research is that it helps improve like cognition, because you have to remember all the different combos. You also work on agility and balance, being able to stand upright and be able to move and do your different steps and different agility exercises for boxing. And also it's shown to get your heart rate up as well, which is what we kind of talked about today, which is the high intensity part about it all, to help reduce symptoms of Parkinson's and hopefully prolong or decrease your progression of Parkinson's as well. Does that help?
Uh-huh.
All right, great.
What about my cardiologist suggested dancing.
Yeah. See, that's something that I forgot to mention. Exactly. We have one dancing class, which is in person, and then we have an online dance class, which is like half the time, which Claire teaches. And you know, it varies depending on the dance you're doing. Sometimes if it's a much slower beat, then you're probably doing more of like a moderate intensity, which just like Tom said, like there's still other benefits that you get. But dancing is such a great way to get your heart rate up as well, because you're moving a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great question. Anything else? You can unmute.
That thing about measuring the age minus the heart rate. Sorry, I interrupted somebody else.
Okay.
I didn't quite get that.
You didn't.
You know, you're supposed to write down age, like I'm 79, and my heart rate like 65.
Yeah. So the Carvinian method is a type of, it's like a formula that you use where you can basically put your age and then your resting heart rate, and then that will get you the different ranges of your heart rate. I'm just trying to find it online really quickly so I can show it, or I can put it in the chat. Let's see, right here. There it is. I'm just copying and pasting the URL and putting it in the chat so you guys can have it if you want to calculate it. So when you calculate this is just giving you your beats per minute and your heart rate percentages for your individual heart rate max and your age. So the Carvinian method is just a little bit more individualized compared to when people typically find their max heart rate and then calculate the ranges. They just do 220 beats minus their age. But we take into account your resting heart rate too, which allows it to be a little bit more specific once you find those two numbers. So for me, it was 118 beats per minute to 175 beats per minute. I write it down on a piece of paper so that when I'm like working out and stuff, I don't have to remember those numbers. I can just like peek and be like, all right, is my heart rate up at that zone? Oh, it's not? Well then, girl, you got to work a little bit harder, kind of thing. So that's the way I do it.
One more.
Yeah.
I have one more. No, shut up.
It's okay.
I had a foot operation, so it's hard for me to walk, but I ride my exercise bike. And it's like 20 minutes every day enough, or does it need to be more?
Yeah. So based on the Parkinson's Foundation guidelines that were released, they take all this bunch of research and they make it into one page, and they basically tell you what you should be doing as someone with Parkinson's. They tell you 150 minutes of moderate to high intensity aerobic activity. So that can include Nope. In 1 week. Sorry. I didn't specify 1 week. Not every day. I think we
Oh.
would like all like fall over. So 150 minutes of moderate to high intensity aerobic activity per week. So you can split that up however you want, but I usually say like 30 minutes here and there, 30 minutes a week, or 30 minutes every 3 days is going to be the best, which is only 120, but they recommend 150.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Where can we access some of the studies you had listed? Great question. If you send me your email, I will be able to send you like all the references I had. So James, if you just type in your email on, you can send it to me privately too if you don't want to. And I can write it down so I can send it to you all as well. And I'll send you a picture. Any other questions or anything like that? Or comments or anything?
I'm very familiar with this topic.
All right,
What
perfect.
percentage of Parkinson's people have osteoporosis?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here. I just learned about it like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, don't worry.
I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but I know it like I think for women it's like 6 times increased risk or something like that for osteoporosis. I can
I'm
probably
sorry.
No, it's okay.
Don't-
No, I want you to ask these questions. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help you. And hopefully, like if you sign up, then you get to see me online every Thursday and you can ask me all these questions because usually whoever's online, which is the PT, if you come in a few minutes before class starts, we're usually getting set up and you can ask questions however you want, which is kind of nice because we all have our doctorates in physical therapy and we are professional like movement analysts and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty nice that you have access to that compared to, traditional physical therapy where you have to go in for insurance, which is still really, really good. And I think you should use that because I think it's good to practice one-on-one therapy and use your insurance. But when sometimes you finish, people don't do much. And that's kind of the goal for Rogue is we're kind of making the gap between just a general gym of like with just regular trainers and then insurance therapy. We're kind of bridging the gap and providing exercise that's evidence-based, but also run by doctors of physical therapy. I'm looking up right now. I have it in my notes somewhere. So give me a second. I can look up the osteoporosis numbers.
Oh, it's okay. You don't have to.
Yeah. Okay. 91% of women with Parkinson's disease that have been tested, so not everyone has been tested by a DEXA scan, say they have osteoporosis or some sort of bone demineralization.
Wow.
61% of men. This statistic was found on the August 2023 monthly update from Dr. Lori Mishley, the naturopath up in Seattle. She provides every month a new topic, and I was watching it, and that's what they talked about this past month. They were talking about osteoporosis and bone health. And so that was one of the statistics.
Thank you for that.
Of course. Any other questions or anything like that? No? All right. Well, hopefully I will see you all online. Let me provide the link. Rogue in Motion. rogueinmotion.com. That's the link. So that's the link to come in and sign up. Then you're going to click on start free trial and the promo code is free month. So you guys get that whole month free, the first month free. And this is only, I think I only have it open for about a week. So make sure you guys sign up within a week. And hopefully I will see you all online That would be super fun. I'll see all your faces online. We can get to know each other a little bit more. You'll see different physical therapists. And yeah, I'm here for anything you need. I'll put my email in there as well. So if you have any follow-up questions or anything like that, please don't hesitate to reach out. I love what I do, and hopefully you can tell because I love exercising. I love helping people, and I get to know you all, which is kind of fun. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I will see you all hopefully online starting next week, and have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, drink lots of water, and I will see you all soon.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.